Cyclone Dikeledi hits Madagascar. Mayotte is next. So this storm decided to strengthen quite quickly at the last minute before striking the coast of Madagascar and is now just about to make landfall at 12.7 south, 50 degrees east. Category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson scale, which we're giving estimated winds of 80 miles per hour, 125 kilometers per hour sustained, and a central pressure estimate of 972 millibars, moving just a tad south of west at 8 miles per hour. This is the latest as of 6 p.m. Eastern African time, this January the 11th. Well, the storm is going to be moving inland shortly, just to the south of Antsiranana in Madagascar, a significant city on the northern tip of the island. Looking at the wind field extending out to up to 100 nautical miles in the bottom two quadrants, that would be. So a substantial wind field there, with obviously strong winds near the center of hurricane force. It is currently just 30 kilometers from Andringhaley, 89 from Antsiranana, 116 from Ambilobi, 516 from Mayotte, and 1026 from Nacala along the coast of Mozambique. Well, we've issued all kinds of unofficial warnings because there aren't many official warnings in these areas, or at least that are readily available. But obviously cyclone conditions are expected over a lot of these areas, including those islands to the west as well. So the wind potential has increased. It's pretty much the same blurb we had on yesterday. Obviously it is starting to fulfill that wind speed forecast that we had a couple of days ago, but due to its compact nature, those winds won't extend that far. Rainfall is still likely to cause a greater hazard for a larger area, particularly as it moves on through still relatively quickly through Madagascar and passage near Mayotte and Mozambique. Rainfall amounts could reach 250 millimeters. The forecast still remains rather challenging because the GFS is still out on a limb, taking the storm almost to a direct landfall in Nacala, Mozambique, before it turns quite abruptly further south. Indeed, it has a little bit of land interaction there as well, so the storm weakens a lot. If it stays far enough away from Mozambique, however, the storm will remain powerful and get even stronger over the larger region there of the Mozambique Channel. In general, we are expecting a gradual curve southwards and southeastwards round the coast of western Madagascar later on. Here's the wind speed estimates. We're currently at 80 miles per hour, satellite estimates a bit lower, JCWC at 85, Meteo France a notch above 90 miles per hour on their estimates right now, so they're bordering on category 2 range. I think our estimate is decent at this point. And this is the official cone for Meteo France, and expecting that landfall very shortly. As you can see, this was from a little bit earlier, but you can see the storm intensifies a lot as it moves past the coast of Mozambique once again. But a big caution there: if it does make landfall and move inland a little bit in Mozambique, that will obviously hold the storm back a lot in terms of its final intensity. Here are the unofficial warnings that we've put out right now, hurricane equivalent warnings for those red areas, including Mayotte and also for part of the coast of Mozambique from Lucio southwards. And these are the wind speed probabilities. This is for tropical storm force winds, 40 miles per hour, 65 kilometers per hour. And you can see a lot of those areas really in those high percentage points, including the island of Mayotte at 95%. So looking at the GFS model closely, then you can see, almost like Chido, the storm just barrels on westwards until the very last minute, when it moves through a little chunk of Mozambique and then draws further southwards. Then it looks like it has a potentially baroclinic interaction there and intensifies a little bit more as it goes towards those deeper latitudes. But look again there, pretty much a direct landfall not far from Nacala, Mozambique, strengthening again as it does so, at least a category 1 range, and then it continues southwards. But I must stress, massive uncertainty regarding that forecast. There's plenty of ensembles that have the storm stalling around the central part of the Mozambique Channel for a good while, and possibly re-intensification, and that could swing the storm straight back to Mozambique or even through Madagascar. So big question marks over that later part of the forecast, even beyond 2 days. It's quite uncertain as to exactly what's going to happen, how close it will get to Mozambique and Mayotte. So the north and northwestern side there looks like it's got the higher amounts of precipitation values as it goes on to affect land areas, so that's why we're concerned about precipitation looking at that simulated radar. And these are the total rainfall estimates for the regions involved, and you'll see there quite quickly rainfall accumulates over the northern tip of Madagascar up towards 12 inches, I would say there, nearly 300 millimeters, and similar numbers if the storm does move inland over Mozambique. You can see a big pooling there north of Quelimane, getting up towards the 300 millimeter mark. As we've been mentioning a lot as well, the eastern bands will also be affecting the northwestern side of Madagascar with more prolonged rainfall, totaling 7-day totals there of 250 to 300 millimeters. That could cause some flooding issues as well. And north of Beira, you may have seen a little area there too, not fully associated with the storm, but obviously a very wet picture. Well, these are the sea surface temperatures, and don't forget these numbers read slightly low, and I'll convert them to Celsius, around 30 degrees Celsius ahead of the storm in the Mozambique Channel, if not a little bit higher, and those temperatures extend way down south. Just looking at some of those land temperatures there as well, eastern Mozambique, western Madagascar, temperatures up towards 40 degrees Celsius today on those maximums. Obviously very hot conditions along those coastal areas. I'm sure they wouldn't mind a bit of rainfall, but obviously not too much with this cyclone. Well, let's take a look at the latest satellite imagery. This is the view from EUMETSAT with the storm moving just a slight bit south of west at this point, around 260 degrees bearing, and you can see in those latest frames, this is now round imagery showing just how much the cloud tops have massively increased. Western side still not looking that good on the storm right now, but cloud tops getting up towards and possibly above minus 90 degrees in a few spots. Some of that might be due to land interaction because that does throw those cloud tops up. But especially on the eastern side, we're really getting some high cloud tops right now, with the western side looking much more depleted, obviously with the storm moving inland. But obviously there's going to be a lot of rainfall all underneath that cloud area, with the storm continuing on its movement westwards. So the northern tip of Madagascar, they're going to be getting a lot of rainfall from this as the storm moves over. This will be the next 6 hours or so. You can find all this imagery live on the Force 13 website, force13.com/satellite, and our live 24/7 tracker, which is running all the time, has the latest on Dikeledi as it continues to move on through towards the west. We'll have many more updates on this storm as it continues to press into the Mozambique Channel, but further strengthening cannot be ruled out once it gets in there.